We use thousands of words every day, don't we? But there are a select few that can really pivot and change the tone of a conversation and actually reveal something about who you are as an individual. And so today I want us to get comfortable with an F word that all of us use in our vocabulary at some point in time in our lives and see how it is that we currently deal with that or how we can deal with it better in the future. Let's get into it.
The average man today is sleepwalking through life, many never reaching their true potential, let alone ever crossing the finish line to living a purposeful life. Luckily, throughout history, there exists a few good men we can look to for guidance. Strong, confident, driven. Men who weren't afraid to face the greatest tyrant they've ever known, their minds. Forged in the fire of their shadows, these men knew who they were at their core. Solid in their convictions, owners of their reality, men of action, strength, and character, masters of their destiny. Today's man is no different. The hunger still exists, albeit buried amidst his cluttered mind, misguided beliefs, and values that no longer serve them or the world. There's never been a better time than today for men to stand up and claim their stake. It's time to reconnect to your life purpose. Evolving into husbands and fathers our wives and children deserve. Becoming masters of our life and the leaders of our homes and community. Ever evolving, today's man is assured he is aligned for greatness. Welcome to the movement. Stay strong, my brother.
Welcome to the Evolving Man podcast. My name is Alan DeMonso, and I'm the founder and creator of The Awakened Man. As we continue 2021's theme of reclaim, retool, and respond, we get into the month of May. And the month of May's theme is sowing seeds. You see, up until this point now, we've started to build the foundations to set up what this 2021 will be as the best year that you've had to date. Now, if you really want to raise your intention for the rest of the remainder of the year, then I encourage you to continue following and plugging into the Awakened Man content. But before I get into that, I just want to touch on and remind you of our Band of Brothers Men's Circle. This is our community of strong, resilient men, where each one of us are dedicated to not only our own growth, but the growth of our fellow man. We base the format on the five pillars of man, and I provide exercises to help lock in some of the lessons that we're learning. And then at the end of the meeting of each of these group meetings, we also get an opportunity to do a round circle. It's your chance to share about what's going on in your life and get some coaching and mastermind advice from the men in the group. And if you're really interested about raising the level that you show up in your life, then I encourage you to participate in the Hero's Quest. It's a 90-day challenge designed to help you raise one aspect of your life to a new level, a level that you haven't seen in a very, very long time. Now, where can you find all of this stuff? Well, you can find it at the Awakened Man Training Academy at members.theawakenedman.net. Now, with that, let's get on with today's show. Welcome, gentlemen. As you know, I like to start off each podcast with a couple of questions to really set the groundwork. And so today, my two questions for today's topic are, what is the one thing that has led you to where you are today? And if you could have more of that one thing, would you be interested in having it? See, we're going to be talking about the F word, the F word that we use in our vocabulary and in our lives. And we need to become comfortable with this F word. And so these two questions should help us form that foundation of as we get into discussing what that F word really means and what it's all about. So I'm not sure what you're thinking of, but there's lots of four-letter F words out there that we can use. And one of them that I want to talk about today that isn't really the F word that I'm thinking of, but the first one that comes to mind is fear. Fear is that thing that prevents us from taking action. Right? Sometimes, and I know as a young man for myself, if I couldn't do something exactly perfectly, or I couldn't really excel at it, I didn't want to do it. So why is that? Well, really, it was a base of fear. Fear of success, fear of failure, fear of being laughed at, humiliated. But truly, none of that really happens. It's all the things that we make up in our own mind. And so how often in our lives do we prevent ourselves from moving forward because we have a fear-based consciousness? We're afraid to take the next step. And if we do fail, if we do have some fear, there may be some failure in our lives. And that possibly is going to be a word we're going to touch on in the future here. But for sure, fear can be one of those things that prevents us from really taking hold and grasping our life, really grasping it by the balls and making sure that we're accomplishing everything that we want to. So yes, let's get into failure. Failure is that other piece. Yeah, on the one hand, we have that piece of fear that's preventing us from doing it. And then on the other hand, we're coupling it with this failure mentality that if I don't get it right, or if I don't do something exactly perfect, then I'm a failure. How we accomplish something has no bearing on whether it's good or bad, success or failure. The truth of the matter is that as we challenge ourselves, what we end up by finding out is more about who we are as men. We find out what we're truly made of, where we struggle, where we need to focus on to improve, and where we excel, especially. That's such a key point. I know there are some people that believe that we should focus on the weaknesses that we have in our lives. And I just feel that if we're going to spend time focusing on our weaknesses, all we're doing is improving our weaknesses and we're not really getting better. But if we get an opportunity to find out an undiscovered talent that we had latently held behind us because we had fear and failure sitting in our lives, then wouldn't that be great to discover by attempting to do things and really getting comfortable with fear and failure? I think that's a big step for us to take. So it's not fear and it's not failure. Those weren't the two F words that I was really thinking of. And so the other F word that came up that brings a little bit of angst for us is a lot depending on who you are, is the thought about fatherhood. And I don't think any of us can say we were ever ready for fatherhood. I know when my oldest came on, now he's just turned 29 last week. I was excited about having children, but I didn't have a hot clue how to be a father. I didn't have while my dad was still around, he wasn't necessarily the greatest role model. He worked hard. We weren't very wealthy. We were barely living from paycheck to paycheck, but I never went without any food or clothing, being the oldest in the family. But I knew from watching my dad that the ethics that he put forward of hard work, determination, and just giving it your all were the things that I needed to learn and how to grow and be a man myself. Now, the things that I didn't learn from fatherhood from my dad was how to be a caring and loving father, because in his era, that really wasn't what he learned either. And so I don't blame that for him. That was just something that he just didn't learn to do. And while I've learned to adapt and become a better father, I still make so many mistakes, so many challenges in how to raise and be there for my kids. And both of my boys, I have two boys, both of them are in their mid-20s. And they're both having different struggles in life. One struggles mightily with addiction, and he needs to live his life and make his choices. And the other one is struggling mightily in trying to make it out on his own. And yet both of them I love dearly. And so as we become fathers and we learn how to be better fathers, to be there for them, to support them, but not to live their lives for them, then we learn a little bit more about what fatherhood truly is. I was thinking back about, I was just finished reading Sam Keen's book on Fire in the Belly, and he was talking about, and I want to go back to this failure piece because it's just so important. I made a note here, and I'll be remiss if I don't talk about it right now. But he talked about, and this was written in the early 90s, about Alexander Haig, and at the time he was the Secretary of State. And I guess he made a comment that said that he was a man without any self-doubt. So I just want us to stop and think about that for a moment. Whether you have a fear for failure or success, you don't like having any failures, so you don't try anything, and you're working hard to be a father. If we have no self-doubt, are we really trying then? Are we really stretching and pushing ourselves to be the best we can? And I like his comment in there, and he says, do you want a man who has the proverbial finger on the doomsday button to have no doubts? I sure as hell don't. The more power we gain as men, we need to question our deepest convictions and consider they may be self-serving to some extent. I think it's important when we think about these F words that I've touched on so far, that we need to stretch ourselves. There needs to be self-doubt. And that's okay for us to experience self-doubt and to push through the fear, the failure, and being great fathers. And see, those are the kinds of words that, depending on how they come up and the type of individual we are, can really give us some angst. And so what I really want to get into is the actual F word that I feel that we need to get comfortable with. And it's not the other 4-letter F word that maybe you're thinking I was going to mention. The F word that I'm thinking of at this moment that has had a profound impact on my life when I allowed myself to accept and be in the grace of it is faith. You see, it's that part of us that sits real quiet in the background behind us, with that ego mind of ours chattering away, telling us how we can't do something or egging us on and doing something that we shouldn't be necessarily doing. And I just think that it's so important that we need to develop some form of faith. And it doesn't matter to me. I in my opinion, is that there are many paths to faith and to God, whatever you choose to call him or it, or energy, or whatever it makes you feel more comfortable. But faith plays such an important part. And if you think back to the moments of success that you've had in your life, faith was always there. Every time that we've pushed through our fear, our failure, we've stumbled as being fathers, faith has been the thing that has supported us all the way through. You see, having faith is all about accepting and dealing with the lightness and the darkness in our lives. And to me, it's not really a religious thing, right? It's about being grounded in an inner knowing of who we are, who I am at my core. It gives me an opportunity now to live authentically and live with passion and compassion. You see, it's easy to love those who you're happy with. It's not necessarily easy to love people when we're not happy with them. And that includes ourselves as well, gentlemen. And so as I look back and think about it on the breadcrumbs of my life, I can totally see where faith has served me more times than I care to count on. And it's taken me to get into my 50s to truly become awake to what my faith means to me, and to understand that even though the choices I make are my choices, the path that I'm on is divinely guided. And I think it's important that we realize that. And so that is the F word that I think we need to be comfortable with. I believe we need to be comfortable with, and that is faith. Get comfortable with faith. It's the one piece of our lives that will allow us to pull us through all the challenges that we face. And so thank you very much, gentlemen, for listening to today's podcast. I know it wasn't that long, but I think it was so important that we learn to become comfortable with the F word in our life. Have a great day, gentlemen. Do you want support in strengthening your faith? Then I recommend joining the Awakened Man community and our Band of Brothers Men's Circle. We offer a structured group format that guides men to leading and living meaningful and purposeful lives. The men that flourish are those that are ready to take responsibility for where they are in their life, for who they are, and what they aspire to become. If that sounds like you, then I look forward to seeing you in the Brotherhood. Take care. Aho, my brothers.
Thank you for listening to the Evolving Man podcast. Are you ready to own your destiny? To become more the man you are destined to be? Join the Brotherhood that is The Awakened Man at theawakenedman.net and start forging a new destiny today.